Science teachers पढ़ाए तो simple लगे everything. Leaderboards and quizzes से
Amazing.
learning हो जाए happening. समझ आएगा तो मजा आएगा.
Vedantu. Learn live online. To attend a free live class, download the app now.
Hey guys, good evening, namaste and welcome to yet another session of our class 10 ICSE biology series. This is Ambika, master teacher of biology right here at Vedantu. I hope all of you are doing great and I actually feel wonderful in the sense that we are almost nearing the end of our not just the academic year, but in terms of our syllabus also, biology syllabus also, we have progressed a lot in the last 2 to 3 months, and we just have about a couple of chapters left to call biology ICSE complete for your 10th board exams. Okay, so today we are going to be starting with the next new chapter, which is all about population and its control. Yes? Okay. So before we get started, as you know, it's always important to have the right frame of mind so that you can focus at your best ability, keep your focus at its best for the next half an hour until we are pakka and clear about everything that's to be discussed in today's session. Okay, so what do I have to tell you today? For a motivation piece. Yes, make your life a masterpiece. Imagine no limitations on what you can be, have, or do. Okay, so I found this really meaningful. It may sound a little complex for some of you, but actually it is something very simple and something very basic. Okay, make your life a masterpiece. It's not any rocket science. In fact, all you have to learn, all you have to do to make your life a masterpiece, I'm also learning that every single day with every single thing that I do on a daily basis. To make our lives a masterpiece, you just need to unlearn a lot of unnecessary things that you have gathered over the years. Okay, because as you were a child, as you were a baby, before you started becoming very conscious about yourself and about your surroundings, what kind of a child were you? What kind of self were you? That is actually how we should be throughout our life. I'm not talking about just about the innocence. Innocence is very important, definitely, and we should have a balance between that innocence and having a basic sense of our responsibilities and our goals and being aware of all that we are capable of doing and not unnecessarily judge ourselves based on any useless reason or any useless thing. You are born for a reason. So yes, keeping that in mind, always remember that there are no limitations. Sky is the limit. Just remember that much. There is nothing that should stop you from reaching your goals, attaining your dreams and making them come true. Okay? Yes. And as you know, ICSE Class 10 board exams are just a couple of months away. So just like some of our toppers last year, 2019 ICSE boards, it would be great if all of you could also come out with flying colors. It's our dream also as much as it is your dream. So just for that, we have started out not just on YouTube. On YouTube, yes, we've been doing biology sessions, but on the Vedantu platform, we have been designing a lot of courses for your benefit. So one course that would be very useful to all of you, something called the micro courses, in which you have access to specific chapters of your choice, the chapters that you specifically want help with from a particular subject. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses may not be the same, right? So for those of you who know what your weak chapters are or your weak subjects are, or for those of you who just want some extra winning edge, add some extra winning edge to whatever you have prepared yourself for, micro courses are a very good choice because these are the features that we have out there: a thorough revision, quizzes, in-class quizzes, summary of the chapter, key concepts and formulae revisions, and a lot more chapter assignments, tests, and whatnot. So why I'm saying this is beneficial over our YouTube sessions is that YouTube is more of a generalized platform where we do our best to give you access to whatever we can possibly put out here, but we may not be able to give you that personal attention. So that is where our Vedantu regular platform comes in handy, and we have an amazing tool, an amazing platform wherein one-on-one interaction between the teacher and the child can happen just like a classroom. Okay, the best part is that it starts at a very, very low price, starts as low as 11 rupees, and you just have to use the code AMMIC to avail a very good discount. Avail it at 95% off. Just go ahead to the link that's mentioned here. Go ahead and visit for more details. Okay, and in addition to the micro courses, we also have something called the crash course, wherein we have live classes by the best teachers, some of the best teachers in the country. Now, I can guarantee you that every teacher here at Vedantu is a very, very passionate and enthusiastic teacher. All of us work very, very hard just so that you can be successful, because we count it as our success also. So these are the features that we have on the crash course, which is now especially useful because we are in the last few months before your board exams, right? So how do you go about this? Do visit the link, and these are the steps that you have to follow to subscribe to a crash course. Again, you can use the code AMCC. Okay, for the crash course, it's AMCC to avail it at a very good price. This is the typical price, the usual price, and using the code you can get it as 7,999. So for the ICSE crash course, you have access to these subjects: math, physics, chemistry, and bio. Okay, so make use of that. Definitely you will find them very useful to boost your confidence before exams. And as you know, the Vedantu Learning app has been awarded the User's Choice App Award 2019. Thank you very much for voting for us. Do continue using it. We keep upgrading things, uploading a lot of good quality content out there on the app. So keep using it. You will find it very, very beneficial. And do stay in touch with our amazing mentors and teachers through our Telegram group. And do not forget to hit the like button. If you have been enjoying all that we are doing here, do share it with all your friends, especially now because exams are around the corner. Everyone will benefit from our YouTube sessions. And do subscribe to our channel Vedantu 9th and 10th. Hit the button right now if you have not subscribed yet. Okay, and with that, let's get started with our topic for today: population. Okay, so as I said, your chapter's name is population and its control. In today's session, let's try to understand some basics. What exactly do we mean by the term population? The chapter talks all about that, right? And we all have been hearing about this word for the last few years, right? From a very young age, we keep hearing about the human population, the Indian population, the world population. What exactly do we mean by that? To be very clear, do keep in mind that population is a word that can be used for any organism. We are not just talking about human beings, but yes, because our chapter's focus is on the study of human population, we will be talking only about the human population. So how exactly would you define it? If someone asked you, what is the meaning of population? How would you explain it to them? Okay, so this is what you can tell them. This is how technically you can call the definition of population complete: a group of organisms of the same species living in an area which can be inbred among themselves. So something like a species, something like a subgroup of a species. Species, we know, are members which can be interbred, which can breed amongst themselves. That is what we mean by the word inbred. They can breed amongst themselves. They can reproduce among themselves or mate amongst themselves. And that is what population is. A group of organisms of the same species. If you, for instance, had a place wherein there was a group of human beings along with a group of dogs, a group of cats, and some birds, you can't call that entire thing a population. A population would rather be specific to a species. So in that particular area, if you had to describe it, you would have to say this place has a small human population accompanied by a small dog population, a small cat population, a small bird population, and so on. Okay, so this word, same species living in an area, that is very, very important, which can be inbred amongst themselves, is just there to additionally support that point. When we say same species, it has to be clear enough that it is certainly inbreeding amongst themselves. Okay, so this is how you would define population. Okay, now what do we mean by population density? Now this picture there, the values may not be accurate. Of course, it's the world map and showing you the rough population density in different parts around the world. It may not be accurate, but I've just put it there for you to get an idea about what population density means. Okay, how dense a population is in a specific area, how many individuals, that is what we mean by population density. So to define it, you can say the number of individuals per square kilometer at any given time is called population density. Now I would say not just square kilometer, just to make it a little easier for you, you can even say, you can even use the words per unit area. Instead of just square kilometer, you can also say per unit area. Now the most commonly used unit of area when we talk about population density is square kilometers, and that is why the definition says it. Nothing more complex, simple words, how many people are there in a particular area. That's all population density means, how dense a group of individuals is in a particular place. Okay, so that solves the next definition that we have to know, which is population density. Now, what is biotic potential? Biotic, of course, you must have heard this word earlier also, even in your lower grades. We are talking about the living components. When you just hear the word biotic or biotic components, it's about the living components in an ecosystem, right? Now, biotic potential, what do you think that can possibly mean? Well, this is the definition of biotic potential: the capacity, okay, the ability or the capacity of a specific population to increase or grow under optimum environmental conditions. What are we talking about? Say, for instance, in a particular area, in a certain area, in a certain space, okay, there is a small human population. How much, if provided with all possible natural resources, excellent environmental conditions, provided everything is available at the best, in the best possible manner, at the best possible levels to that population, how much does that population have the ability to grow or to expand? That is what biotic potential is. So once again, let's read the formal definition: the capacity of a population to increase under optimum environmental conditions. Okay, biotic, because we are talking about growth of a population, which means reproduction. That's why we are saying biotic potential. So what are the possible constraints, or what are the possible what is the possible hindrance that a population can face? What can prevent a population from reaching their full biotic potential? Let's look at that. Scarcity of resources. Of course, when there's a scarcity of resources, whatever it is, food, water, shelter, anything for that matter, if there's a scarcity like that, a population can certainly not reach its full growth potential, right? So its biotic potential will be relatively lower as compared to optimum availability of resources. Another constraint can be competition of resources, right? When there are a lot of people and limited resources available, everyone's competing, and then there's struggle for existence, there's competition, and then ultimately what matters is survival of the fittest, like Darwin said. Now, predation again, in the case of human beings, when you say predation, it can sound a little funny and it can sound a little weird, but when you think about any animal population in general, like fish populations for that matter, if they are living in an area where there are a lot of sharks, where there are a lot of fish eating predators around, obviously that is a constraint, right? It will not allow the fish population to grow to its full potential. That is what I mean by that. And we have one more, disease. When there is a lot of disease, when there is too much of disease, the population is unable to stay healthy and hence obviously unable to expand and grow to its full biotic potential. So these are basically the constraints which can possibly be faced by a population when it comes to reaching biotic potential or attaining biotic potential. Okay, now let's understand one more related term, which is carrying capacity. I think this picture here explains it, and I don't have to tell you much about it if you just have a look at this. Carrying capacity, not even a population. Even think about your school bag, your regular school bag. If you were to load it, okay, overload it with so many books, like 15-20 books, okay, your regular sized school bag, what would happen? Within a few days, it would tear apart, the stitches would come off, it would get worn out, and ultimately it would get damaged, right? So even the non-living things, everything that has the ability to carry some other things has a certain capacity. There's a limit to how much it can carry, right? Same applies to the environment also, the nature also, when it comes to carrying capacity. How much can a specific area, how much can a specific place carry or support the growth of groups of organisms? Now in this picture, if you look at it, why I said it's self-explanatory is, in the first picture you see it's a very, very small fish tank. Why would you overload that small fish tank with hundreds of fishes? You're just stuffing them in. Poor things, look at their expressions, look at their face. They are unable to breathe, they are unable to just move around freely. Just everything is paining for them. They are unable to swim. Ultimately they would end up dying because resources are limited. Even if you put some food for them inside this tank, obviously not all of them are going to get access to it. They would be much happier if they had an environment like this, some place where they could move around freely, and a place where they could happily live and get their natural resources without too much of competition and struggle, right? Same applies to human beings also. So how would you define carrying capacity? Formally, this is how you would define it: the maximum limit of an ecosystem that can provide basic needs to a population under certain conditions. Okay, think about it. Think about how it would apply to the human population also. There is a limit to everything, right? We do not want to unnecessarily burden our planet Earth with too many human beings around, right? There is a limit to each and everything on this planet, including the weight the planet can sustain on its own, right? So that is about carrying capacity, the maximum limit of an ecosystem which can provide basic needs to a population under certain conditions. So in this case, this is literally, it could be the carrying capacity, I mean in terms of volume. But in terms of the formal definition of carrying capacity for the population, it has to be this, not this. Yes, it has to be this one, because carrying capacity is the maximum limit which can be provided keeping in mind availability of all the required resources. Okay, so now let's look at another term that you have to know, demography. This is basically all that we have discussed until now and a little more also. I did not want to burden you with all the technical terms right in one single session, which is why we'll be taking up the remaining 3 or 4 terms in the next session. Okay, but now do keep in mind that demography is basically the statistical study of the human population with respect to the size, density and distribution of population. Okay, so it is basically a combination between biology and statistics, a little bit of application of statistical principles to biology, and that is what demography is. Population study is basically the simple term to describe demography. Okay, this is important to know because without demography, we wouldn't have been able to define all that we did until now. Okay, now have a look at this. This is what I was talking about. Population explosion. Isn't that the problem that our chapter is dealing with? All of these that we discussed until now were basics that you have to know as a biology student if you were to solve some of these population problems. Okay, but what exactly is the problem? Population explosion. Look at the poor planet, how much of overweight, how much it's overburdened with too many human individuals having to support above it, right? So what are basically the reasons for population explosion? Why has this been happening so much? Why is it making this a problem that's worth discussing in every possible science and social textbook for teenagers and something that adults have to know alike? Reasons, think of it. Possibly, what is it that could possibly be leading our planet or our country? At least we know India is a very, very overpopulated country. What is it that's leading us to such a situation, or that has led us to such a situation? There are 2 broad reasons. One of it, of course, high birth rates. Too many babies being born is a reason for population explosion. That's pretty obvious. Another reason is low death rates. Okay, these are the 2 broad reasons why population explosion is happening all over the world, and in India also it's a problem. But why did I say these are the only 2 major reasons? Everything else, in my opinion, would come as a sub point under these. For example, what I mean is, when I say high birth rate, I mean, let's think about the possible reasons for high birth rate. Why is it that there are too many babies being born these days in the country, around the world, whatever it is? Probably improved medical facilities, improved nutrition for the mother, improved sanitation, improved lifestyle, improved economic conditions, employment. Parents are able to afford more and more children. All of these are possible reasons why there are high birth rates. Okay, whatever reasons I told you now, let's not judge it whether it's good or bad. Just keep in mind they are definitely, undoubtedly reasons for high birth rates. Whether for good or bad is something that we'll hold on for some time. Okay, low death rates. Why is it that there are low death rates as compared to many years ago? Possibly because of advancements in medical facilities, advancements in science and technology, so better control of diseases, and the lifespan of people is rather increasing. Things like that. Okay, of course I completely agree. If you were to compare lifespan of this generation as compared to our parents or grandparents generations, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about it over the last probably 10-20 generations at least of humans. Okay, low death rates definitely has been a feature over the last many hundreds of years. Okay, so again, let's not judge whether the reasons that I said are for the better or for worse. Let's just keep in mind high birth rates and low death rates do certainly lead to population explosion. Now, let's understand what are the problems caused by population explosion. Of course, being an Indian, I would like to focus a little more on our country, but as human beings, we should certainly be aware of this at a global level also. Okay, what are the consequences of population explosion? Certainly, you would be able to point things out. Yes, this flowchart here, this diagram here summarizes all the common problems caused by population explosion. What are they? Okay, population growth or population explosion, let's deal with them one by one. Okay, increased consumption of resources. What am I talking about? Okay, increased consumption of resources. Let's keep that as consequence number one or problem number one. So, what resources are we talking about? Food, water, space, all of that. Food, water, minerals, space, or area to live in, all of that, forests, everything comes under that. There is increased consumption of the available resources. Some of them are even non-renewable resources, right? So that's even more of a problem. When it gets exhausted faster, it means that the human population or the human species may not be able to sustain its existence on this planet. So much of a bigger problem, right? Secondly, let's go clockwise, air pollution. Why do you think air pollution is a problem? It's because overcrowding. Okay? Overcrowding occurs. And because of that, trees are cut down just so that buildings can be built and residential complexes can be built, schools can be built, hospitals can be built, because it's important to meet the educational, medical and living needs of the ever increasing, ever expanding human population, right? So obviously we are ultimately being selfish and just chopping out other components of nature, which usually end up being the trees and the green plants. Okay, and that's ultimately leading to a lot of air pollution. Okay, thirdly, what is the next point? Water scarcity and pollution. Again, another problem because of overcrowding. There is too much of water requirement, and that's why a lot of places in India still face the problems of water scarcity. I know there are villages in a lot of remote places in India where people have to travel like kilometers just to fill up as much water as they can and bring it home so that their family can live on that for how much ever they can. Mostly they have to go for like once in a day or once in a week and so on, depending on their requirements. So that's very, very sad, right? We don't want human beings to suffer like that. So that is one problem, water scarcity and pollution also, which comes associated with that. The fourth problem is land scarcity and pollution. Again, another problem, as I said, a lot of buildings are being constructed. Buildings, residential complexes, whatever it may be. And because of that, there's not enough land to invest in, to build a good peaceful environment, or just to plant trees and keep as gardens. Especially I live in one of the most overcrowded cities in India, which is Bangalore. Here Vedantu office is in a city like that. So we definitely know, anywhere, any time of the day you go, there's always a problem of traffic congestion, too many people. Every day you see some kind of digging up of roads, and then they are trying to clean up drainages and trying to demolish certain areas and trying to rebuild residential complexes. This keeps happening, and it's part of daily life of a Bangalorean. And I've heard that Bangalore is trying to expand so much that it doesn't have space anymore. It's trying to overlap with neighboring cities and neighboring districts and trying to expand its horizons. Anyway, all that apart, let's understand that this is one major problem. What is the next one? Food scarcity. Of course, overcrowding. Too many people. So, overcrowding, because of which food scarcity is a problem. Yes, like I said, limited availability of resources, right? What is the next problem? Unemployment. Yes. Now, when unemployment is a problem, there are not enough jobs to give people. So that's why we in India still face the problem of unemployment. What is the consequence of that in turn? Of course, it leads to poverty. And poverty would mean a family does not have enough money to maintain their basic standards of living, and ultimately that would mean starvation, diseases, because they cannot afford education, medical facilities, health facilities, or nothing at all. And ultimately it ends up becoming a vicious cycle, because especially education being very, very important, it ends up being a problem here. When people are not educated enough, not literate or not educated enough, that would mean that the problem of population explosion is just being much more of a bigger problem, because family planning and things like that cannot be followed by that category of people. So it just keeps continuing like a vicious circle. Of course, there are a lot more problems caused by population explosion, but certainly these are the major ones. Now, as biology students, what is it that we have to focus on? Yes, how our natural resources are affected because of population explosion. What are our natural resources? Of course, we have water deep inside the water bodies, and other places we have oil deposits which we use as energy, fuel, all of that, right? And then forests. They provide us with so many things. All the functions of a forest are mentioned here. Wood, we use it for food. We use it for wood. We use it for food and medicine. We use it for the pulp to create paper and many other things. They are just used for recreation also. They are the home for wildlife. Beyond doubt, right? A lot of wildlife depends on forests, and of course rubber, cotton, and many more. Forests certainly are the basic sustaining thing on our planet, right? Without them, a lot of things couldn't happen on this planet, right? So that is about forests. And then of course rocks, we depend on them for construction, shelter, and so on. Minerals, they are used for a lot of things. We have a lot of mineral deposits in different parts of the world. They are used for many different things that humans use commercially and personally: jewelry, glass, cans, ceramics, and so on and on and on. Okay, and unfortunately resources like minerals are non-renewable. They can easily get exhausted. So population explosion is always a problem when it comes to maintaining all this. Soil, of course, very important, especially in a country like India, which is heavily dependent on agriculture to meet its food supply, right? Soil is very important. And then of course animals, we depend on them for food, wool, and even for recreation. All of these are natural resources upon which population explosion can greatly have a negative impact. Okay, so as science students, as responsible Indian citizens, it's up to us to think about what small measures we can take to solve problems which can help us sustain these natural resources and bring about a balance on this planet. Okay, which is why I thought it's important to discuss this. Now, whatever we have discussed until now at a glance, okay, this is what you see in the center is human population growth. The yellow boxes that you see on this side are the reasons for human population growth, and the orange boxes that you see there are the consequences of population growth. Okay, so this is why I said, see what I was telling you earlier, birth rates, right? Birth rates remain high and decline in death rates. They are undoubtedly the main reasons for population growth, but reasons for them individually are summarized here. Birth rate is high because historic need for farm labor, restrictions on women's rights, prohibitions on birth control, all of that are some of the possible reasons for high birth rate. Death rate, similarly, new technology, more agricultural production, better medical care, better sanitation, all of them leading to decline in death rates. And the problems faced by human population growth are these, some of the direct problems and some of the indirect consequences. Just have a look at this. It summarizes it. In case a question from this comes in your exam, definitely you will be able to think of some point from this. So why I explained it in this manner, the causes of population explosion in this manner is, now I've seen that a lot of textbooks, ICSE, NCRT, many of those explain when they state the reasons for population explosion. I have seen rise in birth rate, decline in death rate, and these as different points. In my opinion, these two have to be the main reasons. Everything else have to be explained or mentioned as sub reasons under those, okay? Because that is what logically makes sense, right? Just give it a thought, you would understand what I'm talking about. And for your information, there is something that's observed around the world called the World Population Day, which is on the 11th of July. Okay, keeping that in mind, let's end today's session, but of course with a very, very short and quick quiz time. Yes, so let's look at the very first question. The number of individuals inhabiting per unit area is called dash. It's something very simple if you give it some basic thought. And your time is up. The answer is population density. Okay, question number 2. The capacity of a population to increase under optimum environmental conditions is called dash. Again, something very, very simple. If you give it a little bit of thought, focus on the exact meaning that the question is trying to tell you. Yes, and your time is up. The answer is biotic potential. I think the possible confusion here can be between carrying capacity and biotic potential, but yes, biotic potential is your answer according to this definition. And one more question. The statistical study of the human population with respect or with reference to size, density and distribution of population is called dash. Yes, I told you population studies in simple words. And yes, your answer is demography, undoubtedly. And I have one general question as homework for you. What is the current population growth rate in India? Okay, so do send me your answers either in the comment section below or as email. I will be waiting for them. Okay, do not forget to hit the like button, children. If you have found this session useful, I understand the topic is a little boring as compared to the other biology topics, but it is important as far as your exams are concerned, especially all the terms are important. So if you have enjoyed the way we have learned all these concepts today, do hit the like button right now. Please share the link with all your friends so that they can also benefit from our sessions, and subscribe to the channel Vedantu 9 and 10 if you have not done that yet. We have not finished yet. We have a lot more in store for you. After this chapter, we have another chapter to complete before your pre-board, before your next pre-board exam, right? And with that, you will be finally done with ICSE Class 10 Biology. In the meantime, I would be very, very happy to extend any help, any support that you want from my side. So do send me an email with your specific query at ambika.gopalakrishnan@vedantu.com. Okay, so until we meet again in another interesting session, this is Ambika signing off. Bye bye.